hello everyone, it's Tom. Um, I decided not to do this through any gameplay because I wanted to give this movie my absolute complete thought. The reason for that being, um, this film was beautiful in literally every way. Um, this stream will be a spoiler-filled stream just because I want to give warning before I do start talking spoilers, and it just depends who pops in the stream. You know, if they read it with spoiler warning, then they're probably gonna not click on it if they haven't seen the film. But you know what idiots are like, they just come on and cause it. Yeah, anyway, I wanted to just talk about this film. I went to go see it last night with one of my mates from uni. Both huge Marvel fans, so we had a lot of expectations going in. We were both kind of worried for going into this film because of Marvel's recent flops with the likes of Ms. Marvel and She-Hulk and the controversy behind Love and Thunder and Multiverse of Madness. I personally liked the other two Marvel movies that came out this year. In fact, I loved them. Love and Thunder at one point was one of my favourites. However, I've watched other movies since, and Love and Thunder sits highly, but not too highly. This movie, I am probably going to be inclined to say this is probably the best movie that's come out this year. But this film was just truly something else. Going into this movie, I thought there were going to be a lot of connections to the multiverse saga, and then just, you know, honouring Chadwick Boseman here and there. There were no connections to the multiverse saga, which I think was the best decision this film could have made. This film felt very much like a bit of an epilogue to the Infinity Saga to some degree. But this film was the most perfect tribute for Chadwick Boseman. Going into a little bit, you know, during my non-spoiler talk of the thoughts, Chadwick Boseman was, you know, it's been 2 years since he passed. I think a lot of the healing that has had to have partaken over losing him, I think a lot of it has become a lot more manageable and a lot more easier to, you know, just kind of coincide with, and, you know, stuff like that. This film, I think changed the way that a lot of people look at Marvel. Chadwick Boseman was a man who he started battling the big C not long after he got cast way back in 2014, because it was during the New York Comic Con that Chadwick Boseman got cast as the role of Black Panther and was set to debut in Captain America Civil War, and then his own solo movie 2 years later. If no one knew what he was dealing with other than himself, and not once did he give up, not once did he stop fighting for what he wanted. You know, he wanted to make a difference. He wanted to, you know, he wanted to carry on going. He wanted to tell his stories in all the movies he did. You know, since battling, he did several films, both in and out of the MCU. And Chadwick very much stood for the right thing, and that's exactly what the message in this film was, which I think was just a beautiful, beautiful way of tributing the man. Not just the man, but the king, because he was a king, both as T'Challa and as Chadwick Boseman. with that being said, I think it is, this film hit a lot. It did hit me a lot because not only was I a huge fan of Chadwick Boseman and I loved his character as the Black Panther, but I also lost somebody to cancer recently. And it sucks. It's the worst feeling in the world. But this film, it doesn't so much. The film is, it's all about grieving because we got to grieve Chadwick Boseman, but the MCU never got to grieve T'Challa. Now they can. Now they have. I think T'Challa's legacy as a character is going to live. Well, before we talk spoilers, I think the obvious thing I'm going to mention later on. Chadwick Boseman, T'Challa as a character. There's a lot of meaning behind his character. And my favourite scene of all time, which is obviously the final battle of Endgame, Avengers Assemble scene. T'Challa's the first person that Cap actually sees coming through the portal. He's the first one. He's the first one to give Captain America that look of "we got your back." And T'Challa, he became a great friend to many of the Avengers, and he just changed the game in the entire MCU, and that I feel like is something that's going to be explored more. I think in later projects, T'Challa will be addressed quite heavily, simply because of the impact he made. And that's going to transcend both, in the MCU and in the real world around us. I think both universes are struggling with that. I think the film, what it really goes in on is all about morality. Because and this scene was made extremely apparent regarding Shuri and her desire for revenge. Because obviously in this film she doesn't just lose T'Challa, she loses her mum as well. She loses Queen Ramonda, which was devastating to watch. Truly devastating. I think that was just unfair, but at the same time it worked with the story, so I'm not going to complain. I think having two massive deaths like that, and the thing is, we didn't even see T'Challa's death scene. The way the scenography, the cinematography, the direction, the acting was sensational. From literally the opening scene of the film. This is where I'm going to start talking spoilers. So the scene obviously opens up with Shuri panicking, pacing around, looking for a cure, and it was from that very moment I kind of had my theories on what it was that took him, which they never said. They never once said it, and I thought going into this film it was going to be, it was this, and I'm glad, because this film shouldn't be a stance against what took him. It should be a movement on what honours him, and that's exactly what this film was. We heard a mysterious illness. I think people are going to have their own theories on what that was. I'm personally not that desired to find out, because I just don't think it really matters. The funeral scene I thought was, again, beautifully done, beautifully written, beautifully. Well, it was the writing. I think, it was the way the funeral scene was shot. The slow motion, Wakandan funeral ritual. That was just the way they filmed it was beautiful. Everyone in white, everyone, the entire nation celebrating the life of their king. Yeah, that was so good. It was so well done. The music, I do want to talk about a bit about the music. I think the music in this film is definitely up there as having one of the best OSTs in the MCU. The score was just beautiful, and the fact they had so many other artists come in. Rihanna, I want to give a massive shout out to Rihanna. I've grown up with Rihanna. I love her music. I've loved the things that she's done. I love the collabs with Eminem. I've loved the collabs with Nicki Minaj, and Rihanna is just such a sensational and just incredible artist, and I'm so happy that she's finally got to write a piece for the MCU, just like Kendrick Lamar did. All these other stars have got to write a piece for the MCU. I'm so glad that that's finally happened. Her song was that played obviously during the credits was just beautiful. That's when I started to tear up. I did tear up at the end of the film. The music, I think, honestly, the best soundtrack that I keep on listening to was the song that I'm gonna get the name of it up. Con la brisa. That obviously plays during the introduction of Talokan, when Shuri meets when Shuri meets Namor and goes to a kingdom. The music there was so well done. It honestly felt like I was watching a music video. There was so much stylization in the relationship between music and cinematography in this film. It felt almost theatrical in a really good way, which is great because I actually had friends that made a piece of theatre that was very stylized with music, and it just reminded me of that a lot, and I just loved it. I loved it. The use of music in this film was sensational. I think I would have personally used a little bit more of the main Wakandan theme, used a little bit more of that, but at the same time it worked without it, so I guess it didn't. Maybe it's a good thing that they didn't use it a bit. Obviously it had the sorry, I'm a terrible singer, and so it had that, and it was gorgeous. It was absolutely gorgeous. The union between Shuri and Namor was so well done through with that music adding onto it. It was just fantastic. Honestly, I think the score in this film is definitely going to be a score that's remembered. The directing, Ryan Coogler, get this man an Oscar. I'm not quoting T'Challa in Infinity War there, but I'm just saying, get this man an Oscar. I think he already won an award for the first Black Panther movie. He needs another one for this. I think the cinematography just blows the first film out of the water. The way the film looks, even down to the CGI in some areas, was actually pretty good. It wasn't perfect. I'm a bit annoyed. I'm even more annoyed at the projects like She-Hulk and Miss Marvel over that, because they could have spent the money that they used for those projects on Wakanda Forever to make it look a little bit more, authentic and less like a CGI just blob. But honestly, the effects, the visual effects, even most of the CGI was just beautiful. And there was a lot of parallels I saw in this film. A lot of parallels I saw to earlier MCU projects, which makes me feel like it's more of an Infinity Saga one. However, the one big parallel that I did notice was with No Way Home. Obviously, with No Way Home, Peter was blinded by rage and wanted to kill the Green Goblin over what he did to Aunt May, and he lost all hope in helping the villains. He just didn't care anymore. He wanted more to go. Shuri definitely took on that kind of mentality. She was just destroyed inside over what happened with Ramonda and T'Challa, and that obviously driven her to want to kill Namor. And the fight scene between them, Shuri and Namor, was just breathtakingly wonderful to watch. In terms of how the fight compares with other fights, I would say it's, if I was to tier the final fight scene between Shuri and Namor, obviously that fight scene is working in two parts, because it's not just Shuri and Namor, it's the Wakandans versus the Talokans. I want to say Atlanteans, I don't know. I forget what the actual name of the race is. It's called. Sorry. I would honestly put that in a. I've got the S tier, the A tier, the B tier, the C tier. I would put that in. I'd stick it in A tier. Yeah, I would definitely put that final fight scene in A tier, not the. Wouldn't put it in S tier, only because I feel like the fight in some areas was a little bit short. But then it was kind of justified by the fact that it was working in two halves, so they had to kind of balance it out nicely. But going back to parallels, there was a lot of parallels between Riri Williams and Tony Stark, so it's nice to have that connection to the film that started the entire franchise off. Do love Iron Man references for that reason. There was also a lot of references to the likes of Civil War and the first movie. This makes me really glad I rewatched the first movie in preparation for Wakanda Forever, because the first movie was very much was very much a this is what's going on, and the second film definitely follows up from this, which is why I want to talk now. I want to mention the absolutely wonderful twist. Oh my god, Killmonger. Yep, Killmonger. Eric Stevens, Unjabu, Unjaku. I don't know how to say his Wakandan name. Unjobu, I think that's it. Unjobu. I was so happy to see Killmonger again. He looked amazing. And he made some really good points, and it also felt really great to see that Shuri and Jobu were very similar, which makes me really glad, because in certain, I think the easy thing would have been to just have a Ramonda like they were setting up. I would have done something a little bit different. Personally, I would have. The only thing I would have changed, or I wouldn't have changed anything, I would have added. When Shuri goes to see Killmonger, I would have kept that. I would have had just a CGI panther, just a panther, and have that represent T'Challa. I saw a theory a couple of months ago. About how T'Challa could still be in Wakanda Forever, and that was simply well, obviously in the first movie when T'Challa goes to the ancestral plane to visit his father, um, it's made apparent that obviously when they reach the ancestral plane, they can transform between Panther and their human forms. Obviously, the Panther that would eventually speak to T'Challa was T'Chaka, and then the other Panthers are there. I would have had the Panther represent T'Challa, but T'Challa not just come, because then that would have pushed Shuri on to actually listen to what Killmonger has to say. Because Killmonger made some very good points, and this is why I feel like a lot of people credit him as one of the best MCU villains, and this film definitely reinforces that. This film in particular makes me wish that more villains were kind of grounded in the way that Killmonger was, and especially big villains like Ronan the Accuser. I'm so annoyed at what they did with Ronan. He was so one-dimensional. Also, Aisha, even Ego to some extent. Other villains as well. Aldrich Killian, I think, was quite one-dimensional. Killmonger was just breathtakingly good, and this film, it shines that light again. I think it was needed. Obviously, those theories about Killmonger returning and becoming the new Black Panther, I think that would have made no sense. It was possible because it's Marvel. Marvel can do most things, but I just don't think it would have made sense if Killmonger did come back and take on the mantle of Black Panther again. I think it just worked having Killmonger be the person that Shuri sees, and that it's an ugly truth, because even though Shuri is a great character, she is also flawed, like many of our greatest MCU heroes. Like, she is flawed, and she was blinded by vengeance, and who better than to talk to Shuri about vengeance in relation to a Wakandan, Wakandan murder than somebody that literally found out that their father was killed by his own uncle, his father's own brother. Like, it was so well done. I'll say that 1,000 times throughout this stream, because I mean it. This film was so well written and so well done. Killmonger coming back was just sensational. Namor, I think, is a great character. I question his perception as a villain a bit. I think as a character he is fantastic, but as a villain, and I know that in the comic books Namor is actually more of an anti-hero. There were times where I thought, no, there's no way that they could actually go down the whole hero route. He's literally just killed Shuri's mum. He's just killed the last family member Shuri thought she had left. More on that later again. So I thought after the death of Queen Ramonda, I was like, no, there's no way that he can come back from this, and he does. I think there are some still villainous intentions. The way he speaks to the other Namora very much insinuated that there was going to be some form of growing conflict. One thing that I like what this film did, and it did subvert my expectations, I thought that Atuma was going to betray Namor and then he become the main villain, only because only because in the comic books Atuma is a villain, whereas Namor, he's a bit of a sub-hero. He's a submariner. He's a bit of an anti-hero, which makes me very, very excited to see where they go with his character. I kind of hope they don't just bombard him with a Disney Plus show or a movie of his own yet. I don't know. I think we need a bit of time first. I'm, you know. Oh, speaking of villains, a pleasant surprise that I had was the return of Valentina Allegra de Fontaine, or Val. I was so happy that she came back, and also the revelation that she was married to Everett Ross. I thought that was really good. That was a really nice twist. It's not it brought brought back two main characters. It really did set up nicely. I feel like that was the only component in this film that actually sets up a greater part of the multiverse saga, but in a standalone way. I was very surprised we didn't see Val show up in Hawkeye, especially with when she recruited Yelena Belova at the end of Black Widow. This will make her third MCU appearance, I think. Yeah, and also she didn't show up at the end of She-Hulk to recruit Abomination. Abomination's now clearly doing his own thing, so he will likely not be a member of the Thunderbolts. Yeah, I think that was a really nice surprise, especially the revelation that they were married. That was a very good twist. Trying to think where else I could go with on that point. There's not really too much I can say after just mentioning all of that. Let me think. Spoke about villains, Namor, Val. Yeah, Val is definitely seeming more like a villain in this film than she was in anything else. And at this point, I think she already has recruited both US Agent and Yelena. So I wonder what she wants with Everett. And I think we are going to see Everett again in the Thunderbolts movie. Perhaps, I don't know, something. I hope that they kind of leave Wakanda out of it for a bit. Obviously, there was the whole conflict over. I think it was obviously vibranium that Val's after, which has now left me theorizing that maybe she wants the Vision or White Vision. That's the kind of feeling I've been left off with after that. I think that Val is going after White Vision and perhaps thinking of recruiting her or recruiting him for the Thunderbolts as well. And obviously she is the director as well, director of her operations, so she really is the new Nick Fury to some degree, recruiting the Avengers. I think we are going to see Val show up a bit like a Don Juan figure where she's just in all sorts. Kind of like how Nick Fury was in the first phase of the MCU. He's shown up in literally every movie. I think we're going to get that with Val as well. It might just be a brief cameo here and there, just to like come in, set up this, blah blah blah, then off she goes. But yeah, let me think. Okay, I think now's the best time to talk about the biggest plot twist of the film, the scene that got me to tear up. T'Challa has a son. Yeah, T'Challa has a son, Tucson, which is obviously, which means All Saints, but that's only his code name. And his actual name is T'Challa. Which, that I think was the best twist the MCU have pulled in a very long time. The dates work out nicely. You can say that it was born after the first movie, so in the 2 years between Black Panther and Infinity War, T'Challa was raising his child. The 5-year blip happens, and then obviously the extra year after Endgame, where T'Challa dies, and then obviously the year after that is what we pick up with in 2025. The dates work out. T'Challa had a son, and that was, I think that twist was the most wholesome thing about this movie, because technically, you had all these people saying recast T'Challa, recast T'Challa, recast T'Challa. Well, if they recast T'Challa, they wouldn't have done that. They didn't recast T'Challa, they rebirthed him. They reincarnated him with his son. So we know for a fact that his son will take on the Black Panther mantle one day, and we will have T'Challa back in the MCU. It'll just be his son instead, which I think that twist is just the most wonderful thing, because it does also contribute to a recurring theme that has been happening since the end of the Infinity Saga, where our main characters are now becoming parents or father figures. You know, it happened with Thor taking on Gor's daughter. Hulk obviously was Scar. Hawkeye already was a father, so was Tony. T'Challa now having a son. And yeah, that sets up so much. I think that sets up in itself the next 10 years worth of Marvel content post Secret Wars. I don't see his son popping up in Secret Wars. I don't see T'Challa coming up in Secret Wars. T'Challa Jr. I mean, or Tucson. We'll call him Tucson just for that differentiation. I don't see Tucson showing up in Secret Wars. And also the title of King or Queen has now actually been left open, because obviously Shuri was set to go to Wakanda to fight, the ritual battle where someone challenges, and obviously M'Baku's gone instead. So there's a chance that M'Baku could step up as king of Wakanda. So yeah, we don't know who the new ruler of Wakanda is now, which I think is a really good point to leave the film, because you gotta have some questions open to pick up on in the next film. You've got to, This film had one goal, and that goal was to honour T'Challa. It wasn't set up the multiverse saga. I kept thinking it would have been cool to see Doom at some point, because obviously Black Panther first appeared in the Fantastic Four comic, and it would have been cool if the main Fantastic Four villain showing up in a Black Panther movie, kind of bring it all full circle. But I'm glad it didn't happen. I'm glad that didn't come to be, because this film was simply about honouring T'Challa, and it did. T'Challa now has a son. T'Challa now has an heir to the throne. The Black Panther lives on. Shuri will take on the mantle until T'Challa is ready for it. And yeah, and the film was just, in my eyes, it was perfect. Even the things I would have changed, I don't think anything needed to be changed. Speaking on from where this film lies in my top, I don't really rank MCU movies anymore. All I know is that Endgame is definitely first, Infinity War second, and I don't really know what's taking third place. Winter Soldier possibly, No Way Home creeping up there, Love and Thunder definitely being. I don't rank MCU movies anymore, but this is definitely a win for Marvel. I see people hating on this movie. I see people slating it. Only seen one person actually give a good reason why. I don't agree with anything he said, but yeah, this movie is something else, for sure. I don't actually want to talk about it for too long because I just want you guys to go see it. I really do. You know, I'm not gonna go see it again only because I'm going to next time I see it will probably be on Disney Plus. What I might do is next August I might watch it on the anniversary of Chadwick's death, his passing, 30-year anniversary next August. And I might watch both movies back to back. Sorry. But yeah, that'll be what I do. This movie, if I was going to rank it or rate it out of 10, I'd have to give it a 10 I'd give it a 10 out of 10. I genuinely would. Nothing in this film disappointed me. Nothing in this film bored me. I really appreciated everything this film did. And I'm just very excited to see where the MCU goes from here. And I'm so happy that they went out and did what they set out to do. And they honoured T'Challa. They honoured his legacy. They honoured Chadwick. And yeah, this film is a massive win for Marvel after the year they've had, because I think this year, it's safe to say, it's probably been, financially and critically one of the worst years Marvel have had, if not the worst. A lot of people slated Multiverse of Madness. A lot of people slated Love and Thunder. A lot of people slated She-Hulk and Ms. Marvel. Moon Knight was definitely a dub. But yeah, this is the final project of 2022 for the MCU, and a good way to go out on as well. A good way to close out Phase 4. This was the last movie of Phase 4. We have the holiday special, which is kind of like an epilogue to Phase 4. I think this was a perfect conclusion to Phase 4 of the MCU, and I'm just so excited for February, where we pick up with Phase 5, and we really start getting into the nitty-gritty of the multiverse saga with Ant-Man Quantumania. And yeah, this film, I'll say it once, I'll say it 1,000 times, this film is amazing. There's a lot of things I haven't spoke about. Like I said, I just want to let you guys go see it, and hopefully, I hope this film does well in the box office. I know the first movie made over $1 billion. I think this film should too. I think it deserves to. I think this film is well in deserving of making it over $1 billion. And Ryan Coogler, I really hope to God that you are coming back for more MCU gigs. I think that is just what you are incredible at, And my final point before I start closing off this stream is just to Chadwick and his family. Thank you for everything you've done, and thank you for making this so special. I still wish that it was Chadwick we were all seeing on screen, going up for a second epic hit. His fight against Namor. I would have loved that, but they did what they had to do, and they did it well. They did it remarkably well. Chadwick, you are probably most definitely the biggest hero in the entire industry. I think what you did is probably never going to be achieved again. The feats you made to deliver that role were just remarkable. Yeah, that's kind of, I'm sorry it's kind of been abrupt. I haven't really planned any of my thoughts here. I've just kind of gone with it, simply because I just felt like I just wanted to kind of let all my thoughts out on this film. And yeah, it was wonderful. Um, Let me know what you guys think if you've been to see the film. Thank you so much for, you know, checking out this stream. I hope you're all well, and I'll see you all soon. And peace out. Bye bye.